Good morning. It is December 30th, 2023, and I wanted to make a video kind of like a yearly reflection of the past year and explain what's going to come in 2024 and what's going to come beyond. I tried to do this video probably a week ago on Christmas Day, and I struggled, mainly because I haven't done this in well over a year. I haven't sat down in front of a camera and spoke, and I tried to do it in many takes and it just wouldn't work. So today I'm just going to do all of this in one take. Bear with me. I'm going to struggle. I might fumble over my words. I might have to stop and rethink, but I'm going to do one take, upload it, call it good. I also wrote down some notes of kind of some stuff I wanted to talk about. But honestly, like, my biggest goal is to talk about what I've been doing over the past year, content from the past year, what's to come into 2024, kind of touch a little bit on struggles I faced in 2023, and yeah, a thank you and kind of what's next. So I guess to begin, the recap of the last year. So if you've been following my content up to this point, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, you might still think I'm in India, because all of my content over the past year has all been from my time in India. The truth is I got back from India November of 2022, so 13 and a half months ago. What I've been doing is I've been using that content, recycling that content, trying to grow my YouTube channel, which I've had some success in some regards. I reached 1,000 subscribers, which I think is a huge milestone, but I can't say that any of the India content did super well. I think one video did over 1,000 plays, but again, I always look at it as, especially in the game of YouTube and content creation, yeah, obviously you want views, you want to monetize, you want to do these things, but my goal really ever since the beginning and even now is two things. One, I just want to document my own story. I want to document my history, and I want to have these videos to someday look back on and see and watch and have recollection of all the things I did when I was a young kid. The other thing too is I'm a big believer in building skill sets, especially in our 20s. I'm 26 as of about a week and a half ago, actually 10 days ago, getting old. But I'm a firm believer 25 to 30, I think, is when the separation happens. I think if you can push the throttle as hard as you can 25 to 30 and put yourself in as many uncomfortable situations, positions of discomfort, whatever comes out on the other side at 30 is going to be pretty dang good. And maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think I will be. And I think that the more I invest into building skill sets, rather than maybe focusing on it's only successful if it makes money, I think I'll be all right. Because I think the more that I invest into my skill sets, the money is going to come. And when it does, it'll be fantastic. And I'll always have that skill set to back everything up. So aside from coming back from India, when I got back from India, I started a job. And currently we are in Oakdale, Minnesota, in the United States, which is my hometown. I grew up here. This is where I've spent all of my life. It's kind of crazy to think that after all the years of travel, this is where I've come back to and I'm working. Sometimes it throws me for a loop in my own mind of how this happened, but I got an opportunity from a good friend of mine who is running a company here in my hometown, and we connected back in 2020 on kind of just topics of money, topics of, growing as an individual. And he, specifically, his name is Max. He was someone that I feel like back in 2020, back when I was 22, just graduating college, I was like, this guy thinks differently than people our age. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for people that are way outside the norm, people that do things that are very different from a lot of what young people do our age. And so I felt very connected to Max. I consider him one of my best friends. I mean, he's done so much for me, and yeah, very grateful to have him in my life and be able to, have the relationship we have and have the opportunity to continue that and grow as friends, as coworkers, as business owners, all the things. So, Mr. Max, if you watch this, I appreciate you more than you know, honestly. In terms of what the job is, it's in what's called the logistics industry. Someday I'll probably get around to making more content regarding that, because it is a big part of what I do day to day. But simply, the opportunity that exists is there's a lot of opportunity for growth in this company, in this job, not only financially, but also personally, also as an entrepreneur, all the things. It's an incredible opportunity. And I'm a huge nerd. I love working on computers. You know, I've done it for years with this project, Manatee Media, making countless YouTube videos, spending hours editing. I also have my music project, which I've maybe touched on a little bit in the past, but that's a big goal of mine into the new year, is to bring more content focused around my music project. But I'm a nerd, dude. I like working on computers. I like, I like creating stuff. And, you know, this job is in many ways super creative, the way that you do it and the way that you can structure your business and your projects, and, you know, the way that you work and build relationships with people. It's absolutely fascinating. So very grateful for that job. It's pushed me in a lot of ways, and I think the wealth that I've gained from it, not financially, not monetarily, but the wealth as an individual that I've gained from that is absolutely incredible and has set me very far ahead. So moving forward, content in the past year. As I started in this video, if you've been following me, you might still think this man has been in India for a year. I was there for a month, actually 3 weeks and 1 week in Pakistan. When I got back, I took some mentorship and tried to really hone in on building those YouTube videos and getting growth from them. And as I said, it comes down to perspective, how you want to see it. Some people could view it and say, you didn't get a lot of views, you spent all this money going over there and you didn't get a return on it. I don't care. The experience I had in India, unbelievable. And the amount that I grew as a person and put myself in unbelievably uncomfortable positions, especially spending a week in Mumbai alone, man, I grew as a person so much in that week, especially just learning how to be alone with myself and in a place where I don't know anybody. Maybe it was ignorant of me as an American to think, well, maybe there'll be, you know, people that speak English. In Mumbai, there was like not a lick of English. I was completely on my own. But that being said, I only got around to the India content, and I honestly still have a couple videos yet to publish from that series. I think like 2 or 3 more. I got to kind of the end of the year, kind of September, October, November, and I started to realize, okay, I got a couple more videos for India. I also have the whole Pakistan series. I was only there a week, but I think I filmed 5, 6, 7 videos. And I was like, okay, I could rush to get all of this done and get it out on my YouTube channel before, or I can just wait. It's not going to be the end of the world. And my YouTube channel right now is not, it doesn't get a ton of views, maybe a couple hundred views per video. And it's like anything in life. There's 2 sides to a coin. One side of the coin, the pessimistic, the negative side, is I got to grind. I got to keep pushing because my YouTube videos aren't getting any views. I got to continue putting content out as fast as I can, as much as I can. Or I flip the coin and say, my videos don't get a lot of views. What does it matter if I post 2 to 3 a week, or if I just take my time and I do a good job telling those stories? Because again, at the end of the day, especially in this early stages, I mean, granted, I'm a couple years into this, but I still think I'm very much in the early stages. When I'm 40, 50, 60, 70, I want to look back and watch those videos and be like, man, as a young 20-year-old, I did a good job, not only filming, not only pushing myself outside my comfort zone and going to these places that no one else I know would go to, but also taking the time to tell a good story, not rush it. So the India series will probably wrap up sometime after I get back from the next trip, which I'll talk about next. And then sometime next year also, I will get the Pakistan videos out. And I don't want to rush those because I think it was really interesting when I chose to go to India and Pakistan. You know, being here from the US and the Midwest specifically, I'd tell people, hey, I'm going to India. Wow, you're going to India? Fantastic. That's so cool. You'll have a really great time. Yeah, I'm also going to Pakistan. You're going to Pakistan? You're gonna die. You're gonna be unsafe. You need a bulletproof vest. Isn't there terrorism there? Granted, I guess all rightful concerns. But again, a lot of this ties back to me, and I'm not trying to be skeptic or even a conspiracy theory-esque person, but I mean, the truth is, I always question, okay, when I tell people I'm going to India, they have this response. When I tell people I'm going to Pakistan, they have this response. Well, where do those responses stem from? Is it personal experience? I would say 100% of the people I told had not been to either of those countries. So then where does it come from? Well, it comes from what we consume. It comes from what we consume on our screens at home. It comes from what we consume on our screens on our hand. Take it a little deeper. What is it that they're consuming, and why is it that whatever they're consuming is pushing a certain narrative about a country, a place, a culture, an ideology, whatever it is? So that's why I always ask, okay, everyone's telling me Pakistan's super unsafe. Pakistan has terrorists. Pakistan, you're going to want a bulletproof vest. Is that the truth? Well, I don't know. Well, how do I find out? I go there and I look with my own two eyes. You know, that's a big thing for me, is if I'm going to form an opinion on something, especially a place, a culture, a country, whatever it is, or really anything happening, I'm just not a big believer in any mass media of any side, of any bias, whatever it is. I'll just go with my own camera and my own two eyes, see it, and base my own perspective off of that. So I think the Pakistan series, once I get edited and what I showcase in it, and again, I was there for 1 week. I can only showcase so much, and it's only my experience. But from my experience, I think Pakistan is very different from what we're led to believe here in the US. So that being said, what comes next? We just spent the last year working. We just spent the last year creating a bunch of content from the years past. Now what? Well, do I have a surprise for you? I've been working on something for a couple of years, honestly. And over the past year, I've worked really hard on this. I've kind of kept it under wraps, and I've kind of struggled here and there of, you know, simply getting the courage and the confidence to talk about it and put it out there. But I'm a couple days from when I go. We're running out of time, and it's time that I just stop caring what people think, stop caring about people's opinions. I'm doing this, and I think it has a huge potential to be something big in the future, and it's something that I'm personally passionate about, and I think it's a cool thing. So what is it? Over the last couple of years, I have been working to build an organization. This organization started back in 2020, I would say even early 2021. And if you've been following my content since the very beginning, you know that our story, my story, our time together, really stems back to Sierra Leone, small country in West Africa. And the story kind of goes like this. During my senior year of college in the US, I had a professor by the name of Hindalo Pokawa. Hindalo runs an organization in his home country of Sierra Leone. Hindalo, his organization is called the Sierra Leone Foundation for New Democracy. And what he did is he built the first village preschool in the entire country, and he offers early childhood education to young kids ahead of when they go to primary and secondary school, because he saw that kids in my country, in my community, in my hometown don't go to school till they're 5 or 6. So they don't start learning reading or writing until the age of 5 or 6. So what happens if we start them a little earlier? Start them when they're 2, 3, 4, so that by the time they get to primary school, they're already reading, they're already writing, they already have some form of education. What can that do over 1, 2, or 3 generations? It can have an incredible impact. So that's one aspect of Hindalo's organization, Sierra Leone Foundation for New Democracy, SLFND for short. He has the preschool. He also does regenerative agriculture, and he's really trying to re-invoke and essentially bring back to life the indigenous values of agriculture within his home community, his home country, because there's a lot of farming practices, not only in Sierra Leone, but all throughout the world, that are for mass quantity and very destructive to the land. And so he does what is called permaculture. Permaculture is an agricultural practice. It's been around for ever. You know, it was used way back in the day, used by a lot of indigenous communities, but it's kind of been lost today in the modern agriculture world, the modern monoculture, high quantity, high mass production. It's really cool. So around the preschool that he has done a bunch of land design to grow a ton of food on that land. And the idea is, let's not only teach the children, but then let's also give them education on how to grow food on the land in which they learn, and then they can nourish their bodies and their brains with the food that they grow on the land in which they learn. Pretty cool, if you ask me. I think it's really dope. Thirdly, what SLFND does is social enterprises. So Hindelo has talked to me, and a lot of times in Sierra Leone, and this just comes from my own experience of what I've seen and what I've learned over there, young people in villages oftentimes will leave their community to go to the big city to look for work. Sierra Leone is a country that I would say over 50%, well over 50% of their population is super young, like under 30. So there's a ton of young people, but they also have like one of the highest unemployment rates in the world because there's just no work. You know, it's a tough situation. I don't even really know how to fully explain it. But what Hindelo is trying to do is Hindelo is trying to reinvoke in the minds of people within their home communities, hey, you don't need to leave to go to the big city. You can stay here. There is a ton of wealth within our own community if we work together to figure out what that is and build social enterprises that build income for ourselves. We don't have to be reliant on going to the big city, or we don't have to be reliant on people from outside the country coming here and starting these organizations. We can self-sustain for ourselves. The whole issue of dependency, that's a big one that I've learned from my brother Hindelo. That's very prevalent in that part of the world. In West Africa, specifically where I've traveled, there's tons of organizations that do really good work. But what does that do? Well, let's say an organization comes into a community, it builds a school. That's awesome. Well, it doesn't just end there. Once you build the school, then you have to find teachers, pay teachers, keep teachers. You have to maintain the building. You're essentially running a business. And if you, as the outside person or the organization, all of a sudden one day everything dries up and you head out, that community's left with nothing. It's kind of like the idea of giving a man a fish versus teaching a man to fish. If you give a man a fish, well, they're just going to keep coming back and expecting a fish. But if you teach a man to fish and they teach someone to fish, it creates a ripple effect within the society that people can become self-sustainable. So where's all this tie into my organization? Well, Hindelo has this organization. He runs a preschool, he does farming, he does social enterprises. During 2020, as we know, COVID happened. It was an absolute shit show all over the world. I lived here in Minnesota in the United States. Specifically, I lived right in between St. Paul and Minneapolis. And if you're kind of from this area and you know kind of what happened wherever you are, there was an event that took place in May of 2020 where a man by the name of George Floyd died at the hands of police, and it sparked arguably probably the biggest civil rights movement for sure in my lifetime, but probably ever since the civil rights movement back in the 60s in the US. It was huge. So I lived less than 5 miles from where it took place, and I also lived less than 2 miles from the police station, which burned down. And someday, maybe tell more about that story. This was before I started Manatee Media, so I didn't do a lot of documenting of it other than on my phone, but I do have some really cool pictures from that whole event that are just a snapshot of history that, you know, I was so grateful to have experienced. But during that event, as that was unfolding, as the city around me was burning to the ground, there was a man by the name of Terry Willis. He walked from Alabama in the southern part of the United States all the way up to Minneapolis, 1,000+ miles, to raise awareness about police brutality amongst black men and women in the United States. During that time, I was working with Hindelo in St. Paul, Minnesota, on a farm. And during our time working on that farm, Hindelo came to me one day and said, "Brother, there's this man doing this walk all the way across the country." I was like, "Okay." And he's like, "I want to do something like that." I'm like, "Okay, sweet. I just went to Sierra Leone for the first time in January of 2020, right before COVID hit. It is now July, August of 2020. The whole world as we know it is crumbling around us. Do I stay here in the US? I just graduated college. I don't have a job other than this farming job. Or do I go back to Sierra Leone? Let's go back to Sierra Leone. So I said, okay, Hindela, what are you thinking? So he said that he was inspired by this man named Terry Willis, walking 1,000 miles to raise awareness about police brutality. He goes, I want to do something like that in Sierra Leone. I said, okay, what do you want to do it about? And if you know anything about, West Africa, Sierra Leone specifically, there is a multitude of issues that you could work to raise awareness about. Some of the big ones that people think of is poverty, hunger, access to water, things like that. But Hindela wanted to do something more specifically that tied directly to the work that he did and something that personally affected him. And that was the issue of rape and sexual violence, specifically sexual gender-based violence in Sierra Leone and throughout the world. Now let me kind of explain this. In June of 2020, when everything was going on here in Minneapolis with the uprisings and after George Floyd was killed at the hands of police, in Sierra Leone, there was a young girl by the name of Khadija Sako, 5 years old, raped and killed by a family member. Absolutely horrific. So then comes the question of why did that happen? What's happening? So now as we sit here in 2023, I tie it back to a lot of ripple effects. As we sit here in 2023, wherever you are in the world, I'm sure that you can see ripple effects that have been caused by COVID-19 all throughout the world, all throughout our societies, all throughout our communities. Sierra Leone back in the 1990s had a major civil war that shut the country down for 10 years. And if you think about it, think about the 1990s. I was only around starting in 97, so I don't know anything about the 90s personally, but in the 1990s, that's kind of when things started to change with the internet and business and things like that. So a lot of the world was progressing at such a high rate. And then there's this part of the world, this country in West Africa, that's completely shut down. For 10 years, there's no infrastructure being built. There's no school in session. There's no hospitals open. Everything is shut down. 10 years, that's a couple generations of people. During that time, one of the tactics of war used during that civil war was rape and sexual violence. So now in 2020, when Khadija Sako was raped and killed, well, why is this happening? What is the issue here? I think a lot of it ties to the ripple effects. A society like Sierra Leone is very big on respecting elders, respecting the people that came before you, respecting the people indigenous to the land and to your community. Well, then this war happens, and all the young people who, we respect our elders, we respect the people who have come before us and brought us into this world. Well, now we're being taken and we're child soldiers, and we're being fed drugs and whatever else, and we're being brainwashed into believing that this is what we got to do. So now all of a sudden you have a society of young people, specifically children, using sexual violence as a tactic of war to cause terror. What happens when the war ends? Well, now you got all these young kids who in the 90s were 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, who are now in their 20s and have committed all these horrific acts of war. And now it's just over. So the ripple effects, and again, this is all just based off my experience of being in Sierra Leone, seeing it, and speaking to local people. My theory is that the ripple effects of the Civil War and the use of rape and sexual violence as a tactic of terror is what's causing the big issue of sexual violence that we see in Sierra Leone today. Take it a step further. Is that just an issue in Sierra Leone? No. Arguably, I would say it's an issue all around the world. And this is where it ties into me. When Hindela came to me and said, hey, let's do this walk, I want to do it around the topics of rape and sexual violence, I thought to myself, and this is nothing I've ever shared on my channel before, someday I'll figure out a good way to kind of tell this story, but simply put, sexual violence is something that has directly impacted my life and directly impacted my childhood. In many ways, it destroyed many aspects of my childhood. And so for me, I was like, wow, here's this opportunity to do something and not really even stand up and speak out about it, but to just respond with my own actions, towards something that absolutely impacted my life and caused a lot of harm, now I have an opportunity in front of me to do something about it and to try to be 1% better than what was before me and what's to come. So Hindaloo and I went back to Sierra Leone, December of 2020, and on January 6th of 2021, Hindaloo and I set off on foot from the eastern border, a city called Kailan, and we walked 22 days all the way across to the capital city of Freetown. During our time of walking, every single village that we would meet, we would hold a community ceremony, and we would give an opportunity for women and children in that community to kind of have a space to say, hey, what are the issues that you guys face here? How prevalent is the issue of rape and sexual violence in your community? And what do you guys think, you know, people who are survivors of these incidents, what do you guys want to see done differently? It was an incredible experience. I mean, I can't even begin to explain how impactful of an experience that was, to hear these stories from people halfway across the world. And it was crazy because it's in the eastern part of the country, all the way to the western part of the country. We heard the same stories over and over and over again. No matter what community you went to, these issues were prevalent and they existed. So we would hold these community ceremonies. We also would wash the feet of 18 women as an act of public apology for all the wrongs that have been committed towards children and women and men in terms of sexual violence and rape. And then we would also plant a tree as a sign of a new beginning. So we would do all this stuff, try to go into these communities, hold these conversations, and make our way across the whole country. I filmed the entire thing. I have a short 10-minute video on my YouTube channel of the 315-mile walk. I then broke it down into a full-length documentary that was then never posted because it took me about a whole summer. I had no idea what I was doing. I'd never edited a video before, and all of a sudden here I sat with 22 days of 4+ hours per day of footage that then I had to scrub through, break down, and build a story out of. When I was getting ready to post all of that, my hard drive fell on the concrete and all the files got corrupted. So that sucked, but at least I have the 10-minute video to at least have some kind of, you know, showcase of what we did on that first walk. So we completed that first walk. We also got sponsored by the United Nations and received a lot of support from them on the walk we were doing. And really when we started, you know, me and Hindaloo really didn't have a plan other than like, let's go over there and let's do this walk. Okay, so we do that walk. It's February of 2021. I come back to the US, and between you and me, I needed a vacation because I just walked 315 miles in the middle of West Africa. Wasn't easy. It was hard. It was very hard. So I needed a vacation. So then July of 2021, I was like, you know what? Screw it. Still kind of COVID all throughout the world. Plane tickets are cheap. I'm going to Iceland. My friend who was over in Sierra Leone with me, a girl named Grace, she hit me up and was like, hey, tickets to Iceland are only $500. So in July of 2021, me and a good friend of mine, my friend named Abby, we went to Iceland for 3 weeks and drove the whole country. That to me was kind of like, here's your reward, Dustin, for the work that you did in Sierra Leone, but also here's your opportunity to continue building your skills as a content creator and a storyteller. Before, I don't know if it was before or after, at some point, either before or after my trip to Iceland, my friend Hindaloo gave me a call. And again, Hindaloo is from Sierra Leone. He grew up there. He escaped during the Civil War, and he lives here in Minnesota. But he calls me and goes, hey, brother, I want to do another walk. I'm like, okay. And the thing that I love most about Hindaloo is that he is a super big dreamer. Such a big dreamer that I think sometimes it makes people uncomfortable. I relate to that because I myself think I dream big and dream very uncomfortable. That's just who I am. That's what I do, and I'll always be that way. I always think it's important to dream so big that it almost makes myself uncomfortable, you know? So Hindaloo told me, I want to do another walk. I'm like, all right, bro, how much you thinking? And he goes, let's do 500 miles. 500 miles? All right, well, okay, let's try to do it. So I went back and forth on whether or not to go back to Sierra Leone towards the end of 2021, I went to Iceland and I thought about the whole trip and pretty much came to the conclusion of, I got to go back to Sierra Leone. I absolutely love it there. It's a place I consider home. Let's go back and do this. So November of 2021, I arrived back in the country and we set off on foot from the southeast part of Sierra Leone, a city called Gendema, which is a border town between Sierra Leone and Liberia. Hindelo and I walked, along with a team of about 5 to 10 people, 540 miles around the entire perimeter of the country. We visited communities that Hindelo had never been to. We saw parts of that country that Hindelo didn't even know existed. Unbelievable experience. The good news is I did film all of it and I got it all posted online. That entire walk in its entirety from start to finish is all up on my YouTube channel, and it's a story that will be there forever for me to watch, for others to watch, and you know, to kind of build on the story that is now to come. So where does this bring us? That brought me to December of 2021. We finished the walk. I get back to the US. It's New Year's of 2021 going into 2022. I'm at a concert in my home city of Minneapolis, and I had this realization of, well, you just did the second walk. I think it's time for a vacation. So I hit up my friend from college, a man by the name of Uday, who is from India. And we always talked about in college, hey, come visit me in India sometime. So I was like, screw it. 2022 is the year that I'm going to go to India. So then the spring of 2022 comes, I'm working and I buy my ticket. So that brings me really to the beginning of this video, where then in September of 2022, I went to India and I also went to Pakistan. The reason I went to Pakistan is because my buddy was from Punjab, and Punjab is only a couple hours away from Pakistan. So I was like, I'm going to go over there too, because why not? So went to India kind of as a reward for the work I had done in Sierra Leone, also kind of a bit of a vacation, but also, again, another opportunity. Let's keep it running. Let's keep building these skills as a content creator. Let's keep pushing yourself in uncomfortable and positions of discomfort. So then I get back to the US, and that brings me back to where I was talking about earlier. I started a new job, and I've been working here in the US for the past year. Me and Hindelo have stayed in contact throughout the whole duration of this, and he said, let's do another walk, but let's expand it outside of Sierra Leone. And so that brings us to the organization. We kind of hunkered down this year and said, okay, we've done this walk twice. Let's get serious about this. And Hindelo believes a lot in this idea of Ubuntu. Ubuntu means I am because you are. It's a very indigenous saying within the culture of Sierra Leone. And Hindelo earlier this year said to me, part of Ubuntu, part of I am because you are, is you came to Sierra Leone, we've built this relationship as brothers, and now we have together built this organization called Walk for a Child. And he pretty much told me, he's like, it's all yours. The only thing that he asks, which I think is a very important thing, not only for this organization, but really for everything in life, is to always tell the history of where did Walk for a Child come and why Walk for a Child is. Tying it into Ubuntu, Walk for a Child is because of Sierra Leone Foundation for New Democracy. Dustin is because of Hindelo. You know, I am because of who he is and what we've done together. So Hindelo kind of told me, this organization is yours, build it to what you want, let's do this. So that brings me to Walk for a Child. What is Walk for a Child? When is the next event happening? And kind of what is the future for that organization? Walk for a Child, and what I foresee it being, is an organization that does long distance hikes and big physical challenges. You know, we did a 315-mile walk, we did a 540-mile walk, and now starting on January 5th of 2024, we are going to be walking 180 miles in 9 days from the capital of Liberia, Monrovia, all the way to Bo, Sierra Leone. Bo is the biggest southern city in the country, a place that I lived for a couple months. So that's what we're going to be doing. What Walk for a Child does is Walk for a Child then, during these big walks, partners with organizations in the communities in which we walk through that are already doing good work. So in the first walk, we partnered with the United Nations. The second walk, the 540-mile walk, we partnered with a couple local organizations out of Sierra Leone. And now this time we're partnering with an organization in Bo, Sierra Leone, that also has a connection in Liberia called the Rotary Club. The Rotary Club is an international organization that does work within its communities and kind of empowers young people and people of all types to live the best lives possible. I'll kind of put in the description a link to the Rotary Club of Bo and the Rotary Club in general to kind of explain more about what they are and who they are. But what does this look like long term? I feel like I'm kind of starting to mumble and kind of run off words. Let me look here. Yeah, we're at 35 minutes. Holy smokes. Well, what does Walk for a Child look like long term? Well, what am I good at? I'm really good at walking, and I'm really good at creating content. Those are my two skill sets. I like to create, and I like to do physical exercise. I like to do these long distance walks, and I like to push myself. What are two aspects that I don't really have the time, effort, and energy to do? That is fundraising and building and managing projects. So how as an organization do I mitigate those two things and bring them together? That's where we insert organizations already doing good work in those communities. As Walk for a Child grows, as we do more of these walks, not only in West Africa, but here in the US and all throughout the world, we as an organization take away the need and the desire from us as an organization to fundraise and build and manage projects. But instead, we work with people from those communities. One, because they know the community better than we do. They have a personal connection, and they're going to know better than anyone else what the needs of those communities are and how to best address those. So as we do more walks in the future, it's going to change every year. This year, we're working with the Rotary Club of Bo to really look into the idea and the topic of mental health. What does mental health look like in Sierra Leone? What does mental health look like in Liberia? What does mental health look like among young people? And similar to the topics of rape and sexual violence, mental health is an issue all over the world. Mental health is an issue I struggle with. I have had a lot of issues with my mental health, and I think we can all, to some degree, some shape or form, can say that we've all struggled with mental health. So that's kind of what is to come. I'm leaving here on January 2nd, and I am going to fly to Sierra Leone. I'll give you a little more story here in a minute on what it's exactly going to look like, because it's going to be insane. But simply put, I think that starting this organization, Walk for a Child, I'm 26 years old. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'll be completely honest. I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing, but I'm doing something. And I think I don't need to really know what I'm doing. I know enough to get it done. But the way I look at it is, again, by the time I'm 30, I've had about 10 plus years of experience growing a music project. I've had about 8 years of experience growing my own media company. And I've had about 5 years, 5, 6, 7 years experience building my own organization. And eventually something's going to give life to all of those projects. It's going to be really cool. It's going to create opportunities for me that has the potential to change my life. It's already created opportunities that have ultimately changed my life. So now let's tie into kind of what the next couple days are going to look like. As I said, it's December 30th here right now in Minnesota. Tonight, I perform in Minneapolis. As I've mentioned before, I have a music project, I produce music, and I DJ. I've been doing this probably since I'm 18, 19 years old, and I'm starting to kind of see some progress with it. I spent a lot of years DJing, and over the past 2-3 years, I've honed in kind of on learning how to produce music and make my own music to kind of build my own name and my own lane as an artist. And I released music this year. I have new music coming out next year, and I was given an opportunity to perform on New Year's Eve weekend in Minneapolis at one of the biggest venues in the city to showcase my art, showcase my work, and showcase my music. So tonight, I guess tomorrow morning technically, I'm playing from 12 to 1 at Skyway Theater in Minneapolis. Tomorrow is New Year's Eve. Then it's New Year's Day, and I need to pack everything up because on January 2nd at 6 a.m. I fly from Minneapolis to Chicago. Then Tuesday evening, I fly from Chicago to Belgium. Wednesday morning, I fly from Belgium to Sierra Leone. I arrive in the evening of Wednesday in Sierra Leone. Then I catch a ride from Hindelo, 6 hours south to the city of Bo. We go to sleep. We wake up the next day. Then we drive 6 more hours, cross over into Liberia, go to sleep, and then we wake up and we start the next Walk for a Child event, and we walk 180 miles back in 9 days, all the way back to the city of Bo. So yeah, I'm a little crazy, a little insane, because if you think about it, I perform, it's New Year's Eve, I have to pack in one day, which I guess I could have packed before, but you know how it goes. And then I fly for 30 hours, I drive for 12 hours, and I wake up and I walk 180 miles back in 9 days. Easy. Piece of cake. It's gonna be insane. Yeah, so that's what's to come. I'm excited to showcase more of, what Walk for a Child is, how that's going to tie into Manatee Media, and kind of bringing more of my music project to light on this platform and through Manatee Media. So, like I said, I'm already probably 40 minutes into this video. Yeah, 41 minutes. So I guess at this point, let's wrap it up. I want to talk a little bit about, touch briefly on struggles I faced this year. But also kind of like my goals ahead. Struggles I faced this year, really the big ones are, and I mean, this has kind of been a common theme for myself throughout my whole life, of insecurities, self-doubt. It's an ongoing learning process, especially putting myself out in the way that I do on social media, through music, through starting an organization. Sometimes I kind of feel like a broken record, and I get in my head that I've been doing this for so many years, people are just tired of it and they're over it. But at the end of the day, it's like, I'm not doing this for anyone else. I started all these projects because I wanted to do it for Dustin, and I wanted to push myself to be the best person I could be and just simply pursue my passions. Because even at 26, what I did through 20 through 25, I can confidently say there is nothing from my 20s to my 25s where I can sit here now at 26 and say, man, I have that, like, I wonder what if I would have done that. I wonder what if I would have done that. Everything in my 20s to 25s, I did it. I made it happen. I took a lot of risks. I took so much risk that my threshold for taking on risk, in my opinion, is higher than most people my age. I think I can take on a lot of risk, and I think I can put myself in a lot of uncomfortable positions and absolutely thrive. And I think that's going to prove to be beneficial in all aspects of my life, especially in running businesses. The more risk that I can take on, the more that we're about to grow and expand and just rake it in, baby. So that's what we're here to do. We're here to grow, we're here to expand, and we're here to hopefully someday inspire people themselves, you, whoever listens and watches this video, to push yourself outside your comfort zone, to become the best person that you can be, but also understand that I'm no different from you. I struggle a lot. I deal with anxiety. I overthink things. I have self-doubt. Even today, I mean, it took me all year to kind of, the last month to kind of come up with this video and just say, screw it. I'm going to do this video. It's already 40 minutes. The chances of anyone watching this, probably slim to none, but who cares? I'm going to do it. Because too, I get to look back on this video in a couple months, in a couple years, in a couple decades, and I get to reflect on, man, that's cool that I'm able to see at that point in my life at 26, this is where I was at. And now I'm at this point in my life at 28, 30, 40, 50, 60. But I have documentation of this moment right here for the rest of my life. It's super cool. So those are some of the struggles I faced. And my goal is to kind of start talking more about those, be more vulnerable, be more open with my channel. My goal for the channel, Manatee Media, in the coming year is kind of the year of just send it, which sounds kind of silly, but just post content, man. Just like, don't overthink it. Create content, film videos, and just post it. So once I get back from Sierra Leone, I'm going to get all those Sierra Leone videos, tell that whole story of our journey as Walk for a Child and my time in Sierra Leone, a place that someday is my goal to live there and create a home there. Then once that's done, I'll probably finish up the few videos from the India series, and then I'll get the Pakistan series rolled out. And then the reality is I'm probably going to be here in the US for a little bit of time. I don't have a ton of flexibility with my job to, you know, hop out the country for 6, 7, 8 weeks, which is fine. I'm happy working with the company I am and, you know, making do with what I have with vacation time. But here comes the opportunity that I see. My big goal after I get all of this content done from Sierra Leone, India, and Pakistan is I want to take maybe a year, maybe 2 years here in Minnesota to answer 2 questions. Because when I think about it, what is my true passion? My passion is exploring and experiencing culture. I love it nothing more than anything in the world. And I think in my young 20s, my thought was the only way to do that is getting out of the country. Well, now that I'm here, I could look at it and be like, this sucks. I'm just stuck in my home state, my hometown, whatever. Or I could look at the other side of the coin and say, man, do I have such a crazy cool opportunity ahead of me. The opportunity is, how do I answer these 2 questions? What is the culture of Minnesota, and what cultures make up Minnesota? Minnesota as a state, and really any state in the United States, has so many different blends of culture. Our entire country as a whole, the United States of America, is a melting pot of cultures. And I think if I can take a year or 2 to really push myself to dive into all the communities and cultures that exist here in Minnesota, I'm going to uncover some really, really cool stories, and I'm going to push myself to grow as a person and as a creator far past anything that I can even fathom in my mind. So that's kind of what's to come ahead, is after all this international content is, let's hunker down and let's dive deep and let's answer those questions. What does the culture look like in Minnesota, and what cultures make up Minnesota? There's tons of culture. There's a rich history here. There's tons of people from different parts of the world that make up what and who Minnesota is. So that's what I'm excited for. I think with that, pretty much done. I'm glad I got this done. It went better than I thought. It's long, but who cares? You know, I did it. I'm proud of myself, and now I have this video forever. I'm gonna go back in. I'm freezing. When I first filmed this video, it was on December 25th, and it was really warm out, which is not normal for this time of year. Now it's pretty cold out, but yeah, thanks for listening. If you made it this far, fantastic. If you didn't, it is what it is. I get it. But now I have this video for myself to reflect on and look back on. And I'm proud of myself for making it this far, pushing myself to create content. And the last thing I'll say, because I didn't touch on this, is on top of doing more travel content and looking at what the culture is here in Minnesota, I'm going to start involving a lot more of my music project in Manatee Media and doing a lot of vlogs, because I think in the next 1, 2, 3, especially in the next 5 years, I have no doubt in my mind that my music project is not only going to work, but it's going to provide a lot of opportunities for me. And I've spent all this time learning how to be a content creator, so I might as well document my experience along the way of becoming an up-and-coming artist and all the opportunities that will be created out of that. So that's going to start with tonight. I'm going to try to film a vlog. I'm not going to try. I am going to film a vlog. Gotta get that mindset set straight. Tonight I'm going to film a vlog of me performing my first ever New Year's Eve weekend, showcasing my original music that I've created, and you know, just all the fun stuff that comes with it. My music project is, it's fun, it's goofy, it's silly, and to a lot of people it doesn't make sense, but there's a whole world of people out there that love that kind of music, and I am confident that the brand that I'm creating and the awareness I'm trying to raise and what I'm trying to do as an artist, both on Manatee Media and Manatee Music, is going to prove to have a lot of benefit for a lot of different people and build a really, really cool community into the future. So I'll see you in the next video, which will be the vlog of performing New Year's Eve weekend. Thank you for watching, and I am excited to go back home, back to Sierra Leone, and push myself as far outside my comfort zone as I can and see what comes out on the other side.